Hey folks, in this video, we bring you the Multiverse War, Kang vs. Kang. Did you know that Kang the Conqueror was once an 18-year-old kid named Nathaniel Richards, born in the 31st century? At least, that's how the story goes. And in fact, this era was a utopia to its inhabitants, but to Nathaniel, it was boring and traumatizing all at once. The only thing keeping Nathaniel sane was his love of history. Imagine the look on his face if and when he realized life wasn't always as perfect on Earth. He could very well have wet himself if he knew that climate change almost wiped out the human race at some point. And the bullies were not making things any easier. At one point, he almost lost his life to them. We guess certain things will never change, whatever the period in time. On one of his adventures to the outskirts of the city, he discovered the ruins of an ancient castle. It was so old that a modern industrial plant had been built over it. So Nathaniel jumps in from a great height, landing in one of the luxurious rooms. It turns out the castle belongs to one of his direct ancestors, Dr. Von Doom. There's a statue of Dr. Doom in the center of this great room, and suddenly, the same statue comes to life. It attacks Nathaniel as an intruder. Apparently, it is one of the Doom bots that has come to life after so many years. Just before a bot strikes the final blow, a figure appears from a time portal to save Nathaniel. It's a version of Kang from a distant future who has arrived to save his younger self. He invites Nathaniel to come with him, and together they can conquer worlds. But not so fast though, because Kang must bring his younger self up to speed. Would Nathaniel ever regret following Kang? Only time will tell. See what we did there? It's Kang, the master of time we're talking about, isn't it? Kang takes Nathaniel to the distant past, 65 million years ago to be more precise. There are docile dinosaurs roaming the earth. Kang has come here because a cataclysmic event is about to happen. In a year's time, an asteroid will strike the Earth and destroy all life at that time in history. So essentially, Nathaniel has 1 year to learn the ropes. The training starts in earnest, and it is quite grueling. Nathaniel's skills are sharpened both physically and mentally, and trust us when we say he would need all of it for what's coming his way. As part of the training, Kang shares his knowledge of time with Nathaniel and even takes him to the periods in time when he was defeated. He wants Nathaniel to learn that defeat is unacceptable. Yes, Kang has been defeated multiple times, and it's something he's not too happy about. So he hopes that Nathaniel can do better. Eventually, the relatively brief time they spend together draws them closer. It's not long before Nathaniel starts to notice Kang's anger and resentment toward everything. One day, Kang takes Nathaniel to a distant future and shows him a woman named Ravonna and how she was gunned down in cold blood. And the moral of this time trip was to show Nathaniel that falling in love was a bad idea. But once they get back, Nathaniel breaks that same rule big time. While gunning down a T-Rex, Nathaniel stumbles upon a native girl named Audie, and they quickly fall for each other as she introduces him to her clan. When Nathaniel gets back to Kang, he begs that Kang save her village from the impending asteroid by taking all of them to a safer time. Kang refuses and instead kills the entire village, including Audie. Nathaniel is furious and silently swears revenge. When the time seems right, he knocks Kang out by lacing his alcohol, then steals Kang's suit and jumps into the unknown. That's our way of saying that it's yet another time portal. However, Nathaniel ends up in the era of Rama Tut, who is supposed to be an earlier version of Kang. Oops. Nathaniel does his best to fight off Rama Tut's minions, but to no avail. Nathaniel's time suit is broken, and he is easily outnumbered. As the minions overwhelm him and are about to kill him, the Moon Knight appears from nowhere and saves his life. Together, they get the hell out of there. This version of Moon Knight is a more ancient version than the one represented by Mark Spector, and she is being hosted by a version of Ravonna. What a coincidence, eh? Ravonna, the Moon Knight, brings Nathaniel to her god, Khonshu. She eventually reveals her name and her face. All these helpful gestures prompt Nathaniel to think things through. He figures he can still defeat Rama using guerrilla tactics. Also, he has the backing of Khonshu by way of Ravonna. So from battle to battle, they fight side by side and begin to fall in love. At some point, they decide to take it to second base, and just as they are about to get steamy, one of Rama's motherships appears and takes them captive. They are brought before the pharaoh, and for their punishment, Rama strips Ravonna of her mind and free will, while he turns Nathaniel into a Scarlet Centurion. Nathaniel is then ordered to wage war on behalf of Rama against the mutant king, Apocalypse. At the end of this, Nathaniel is so drained that he ends up losing Rama's control over his mind. He is at the lowest point of his life at this instance, and so he goes over to the enemy. He forms an alliance with Apocalypse, who is able to suspend Nathaniel in stasis. His plan is to remain suspended for 4,000 years so he can cross paths with one particular version of Kang. When the 4,000 years expire, Nathaniel transports himself to Kang's ship. At that time, Kang is on the verge of being defeated by the Avengers and tries to run with tail in between his legs. But Nathaniel is waiting inside with his gun pointed and ready. Once Kang boards the ship, Nathaniel proceeds to end things so he can get back his life and love. But then, Dr. Doom suddenly appears to kill Kang and finds two versions of him. It must be his lucky day. Both Kangs quickly form a temporary alliance and are able to defeat Dr. Doom. Then Nathaniel breaks the agreement and pumps several bullets into Kang. It's over. Or is it? Nathaniel gets back to Egypt and topples Rama. He restores Ravonna but fails to reboot her mind, so she regards Nathaniel as if he were Rama and continues to wage guerrilla warfare against him as before. This is heartbreaking for Nathaniel, and so he flees to another timeline. He ends up in a desolate future world, and guess who's waiting for him there? It's Ravonna, all over again, but Kang can tell she's different. He joins her in her conquest anyway. He hopes he can convince her to run away with him when all the fighting is over, to a more peaceful and prosperous time. Nathaniel eventually gets his chance to ask her if she'd be interested. The problem is, this version of Ravonna doesn't know Nathaniel in a more than just friends type of way. She ends up getting upset because Nathaniel has become weird. For Ravonna, this was always about fighting, but Kang is highly disappointed at this, so he resolves to live his life the best he can, given the circumstances. He seeks out and finds the neurokinetic armory from times past. Thankfully, he is already familiar with the technology and how it works, so he harnesses its powers and begins to conquer. Certainly, he isn't known as Kang the Conqueror for nothing. It's not long before he fully assumes that title. At last, he has become a Kang to be feared, so watch out. Kang returns to an Earth almost entirely under his control, but there's only one free kingdom, and the problem is that it's governed by yet another version of Ravonna. She was always his weakness, and he dare not attack this kingdom. Instead, he shows mercy and grafts it into his kingdom without the use of force. But a certain general of his by the name of Baltag kills Ravonna, and Kang is terribly distraught. He realizes he can't change his fate and that he is a prisoner of his own making. He picks himself up because he is Kang after all. He goes on to build a beautiful city called Chronopolis, away from the ravages of time. He is determined to fix things, and so he injects multiple versions of Ravonna across the fabric of time in the hope that one timeline will play out well and perhaps one Ravonna will survive. And in fact, one version of Ravonna does survive, but it's a smart one. This version of Ravonna figures out everything. She hates that there are too many versions of her and that Kang is obsessed with her. Some might even say Kang is too thirsty, and she literally stabs him in the back. Kang tries to convince her of his honorable intentions, but she will have none of it. Kang eventually gives up on her and on the entire Ravonna project. He moves on to destroy this version of Ravonna, and even though she is mortally wounded, she flips it on Kang. With enough energy still left inside her, she is able to blow up Chronopolis to the ground. She has single-handedly ended Kang's crazy rescue mission. Afterwards, Kang loses his purpose for existing and goes on a bender. More conquests won't do it for him anymore, and he starts to seriously consider ending things, but also realizes time won't let him off so easily. In his state of depression, he gets the bright idea to go back to where it all began, back to Nathaniel, but this time, Kang is determined to do better. He has the advantage of experience and time. Come to think of it, who is he kidding? There's only one version of him that is directly traceable to Nathaniel, and all of this is a loop he will never be able to break. If only he had listened to Nathaniel and engaged with the villagers, then it would have been an entirely different story. He is no different from Nathaniel after all these years, and the loop comes full circle. He pretends the sedative Nathaniel put in his alcohol worked. He also allows Nathaniel to steal his suit and start down the same path as always. He had a spare to begin with, and as the asteroid comes down on prehistoric Earth, Kang can only think to himself, never ever fall in love. So that's it, folks, and as Stan Lee of blessed memory would say, Excelsior! Please subscribe to the channel and hit that notification bell to get up to speed on related Marvel comic book titles. Thank you for watching, and bye!